Thank you so much, Kapor, for accepting my invitation to Asian Tide, the podcast to drive business growth in Southeast Asia. You are the CEO Asia of the Heus, which is an agriculture leader in Asia and in the world, actually. It's headquartered in the Netherlands, where you come from also. You've been at the head of this company in Vietnam since 2008, and then you switched to become the CEO Asia since 2015. Since 2008, you have helped the expansion of the company in Asia, in Indonesia, India, Myanmar, and in Vietnam, of course. And this year, you have acquired one of the biggest company in Vietnam, the Masan Feed, which is one of the biggest acquisition in Vietnam. So we will talk about that later. And also, if we have time, I would love to talk about your CSR engagement as the company and how your leadership style reflects in those engagements. But first, as the CEO of the Heus, what helps you to drive the fast-growing growth of the company?
I think the most important thing when you want to be commercially successful and when you want to be successful as a company, investing and building the business it's the people that make the difference. It's the people within the company, which is of course our employees, many very talented, ambitious people that we've recruited over the years, and well, being able to find the right people to work for you, with you, and also to be able to retain them and to give them opportunities to grow and develop their careers. I think that's crucial if you want to outgrow the competition and you have very ambitious plans like we have to further build the business, and also other key stakeholders. Mostly, of course, our customers. We work with farmers every day, and we need to prove to our farmers that we are there to help them and to support them. And in their, let's say, in the last 10, 15 years that we have been active here in Asia, there has been a transition from small backyard farming to more larger professional farms, applying high-tech methods, new technologies to lower the cost price, but also to lower the carbon footprint or the impact on the environment, focus on producing better products, more healthy products, antibiotic-free, let's say, better products for the end consumer. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about people. It's the employees in the company. It's the customers, the farmers that we work with. And at the end of the day, together with the farmers, we are working in a very important part of the economy, which is the food chain. And we do that in partnership with other partners. And at the end of the day, to be able to supply the consumer a good and tasty and healthy product, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about people. People are central, and we constantly have to remind ourselves that is our purpose, right, in being in this business.
Okay, but before going to the agricultural industry, you are in the finance industry. So how did you handle this switch of industry and career?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a coincidence that the way I ended up in this business. I think the moment I was approached by the Heus in 2008 are you interested to start up our feed business in Vietnam? I was immediately very enthusiastic when I heard about their plans, them being a family-owned business, spreading their wings to another part of the world. And having a wife who is from Vietnam. At that time already, we were living in the Netherlands together. She moved to the Netherlands 5 years before. So we met each other in Vietnam. She came to the Netherlands. She had to learn the language and she had to find a job and get used to the cold weather there and the not so good food compared to Vietnam. And so when I got that opportunity, I was thinking, well, first of all, it's a great opportunity to get at a very young age. Secondly, it was also the plan of me and my wife to, after a couple of years in the Netherlands, to try to move to a place closer to Vietnam, so she would be able to also meet her family and friends again. So it was a great opportunity. So I said yes to Vietnam more than that I said yes to agriculture. But I told the host, look, I don't have a background in agriculture. I'm a banker, right? I have been in this banking industry for 5-6 years. Do you think I can manage this? They said, yeah, well, don't worry. We have plenty of specialists, people with an agricultural background who will help you, who will fly in frequently and support, train the local staff. But we need somebody who understands Vietnam, who can speak the language, and who can build the company as a leader. So then I realized immediately from the beginning, if I want to be successful, I need to find immediately some good people, surround myself with some good and experienced people, because I was very young. Back then I was only 28. And I didn't have any experience in this industry. So luckily I was able to find some very talented people from the industry back then, and many of them still work with me until today. Otherwise I would never have been able to be successful, because yeah, as a banker, you don't know anything about pigs and chicken and fish and stuff like that.
I see, but it's the management skills that you acquired in the finance industry that helped you to develop and retain the talents that you had you had hired at that time. How did you do to retain for such a long time, like from 2008 until 2021? People are still sticking to the Heus Vietnam. So how did you do to retain them?
I think I think it's a combination of things. I think trust is very important. So people need to have the feeling that they are trusted, that they are getting a certain level of responsibilities. It's also the trust they need to have in this case in me then as the leader. And it's also about constantly challenging them and giving them new opportunities. And if you are we were lucky that that was of course a choice, that we always have been growing quite fast, and that we were able to do that we were able to spread our wings into other countries in the region. So some very talented and ambitious colleagues from the early years, they were able to grow with the company. Or in some cases also, we were able to challenge them to say, okay, we have an interesting job for you in Europe, or we want you to help us starting up the business in Myanmar, or we need to have somebody who will run the finance department in Indonesia, or we need a salesperson to lead the commercial business in Cambodia. And then by offering people these opportunities, you also create space for the talents that come after them, right? So if you have always too many people stuck in the same position for a too long period of time, you will always lose some very potential talents who have the feeling, yeah, the guy who's sitting or the lady who's sitting in that position, yeah, is still young enough to do this job for another 10 or 20 years. I will never get that opportunity. So maybe it's time for me to start looking around in other companies. And if you need to have the right balance of how long do you want to keep a person in a certain role. But I strongly believe that either people should move to another role or their role should evolve. So you should give them new responsibilities or involve them in different projects. So that's how we try to keep people, let's say, motivated. Of course, if people work very hard and are successful, you also have to pay them well. And that can be done with fixed salary, but also with other incentives. But I have learned, not only in Vietnam, but in the whole of Asia, that at the end of the day, money is important, but it's not the main driver. the main driver for people is to work in an environment where they feel respected, where they like to work. You know, they have fun colleagues to talk to. They have the feeling that there is a certain level of safety in the environment where they work, and they also should work in a place where they can have fun. You know, we also on the work in our offices, there are a lot of people making jokes and having fun together. If you look at it from the outside, people sometimes mistake that with, oh, probably they're not working very hard because there are people laughing all the time or making jokes. But actually, that's if you work in a place where you have fun, then you don't really always count the hours. So if you really have to work very hard in some project and you have to make long days to get it done, then it's easier to do that than if you are in an environment where you feel a lot of pressure and tension. So so creating the right working atmosphere, creating opportunities for people to develop themselves, and of course also paying them a fair salary. Then I think that's the combination.
Okay, so how do you do to find the right balance in the atmosphere in order to nurture this trust and safety feeling?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely not something that one person or one leader or one general manager can do. I think it has to do with creating a certain company culture where you repeat certain things many times. For example, something that I always repeat all the time when I visit factories or when I visit other offices or when I visit other colleagues in other countries, but also when we recruit new people, because recruitment of new people is also very important there. One thing I always repeat very often is the fact that we like to have a very open culture where we stimulate people to share their opinion, and where people are never punished for having a different opinion or for disagreeing with their manager or with their colleague. I really like discussion, and sometimes in some countries discussion is perceived as having a fight, but having a very good discussion where people exchange their arguments, and then at the end of the discussion you arrive at a certain compromise where you say, okay, actually this is probably the best way to do it. I really believe in the power of that, and I don't believe in top-down leadership where some manager thinks that he or she knows everything much better than the staff, and the staff doesn't dare to share their honest opinion. So that's I think something that we look for also when we appoint our managers. We always remind them, look, we need you or to give that same example in your team as well, right? So praise the person who dares to challenge you instead of punishing them. And for some managers that's difficult because initially they feel that they are being maybe attacked in their authority or whatever because of what they have learned when they were young, when they were in school. A country like Vietnam is traditionally it's the Confucianism is very prominently strong, which is on the one hand a very positive thing because it's about respect for all the people, respecting your family, respecting certain values, which I try to teach that to my children as well. My kids are half Vietnamese, half Dutch, right? So I want to give them that part of their heritage as well. But if you do that too extreme, if then that leads to never daring to say anything towards somebody who is older than you or has a more senior position than you, I think then you lose a lot of potential growth power as a company. So that's the balance we try to find in terms of having that respect, the way we address people, the way we talk to people, but the content of what is being shared. I still can really enjoy when there is a young person fresh from universities starting to challenge me on all kinds of topics. You know, that's very nice if that happens. So, and yeah, I think that relatively compared to some other companies, we have quite an open culture where people dare to say more than maybe in some other companies.
I see, but in 2008, when you arrived with this open culture, how did you do concretely to drive this culture? Because it is innovative, as you said. It's kind of a new perspective on ways of working together. So how did you do to introduce this this new way of working?
Yeah, so of course, coming from the Netherlands is the other extreme. So in the Netherlands, literally everyone has an opinion on everything, and everyone believes that they are entitled to give their opinion all the time, which sometimes can also lead to too slow decision-making processes. So you need to find the right balance. But when I came, I still remember very well the first meeting I had with, because we acquired a small company and there were 5 or 6 department leaders leading production and purchasing and accounting, and we had the first, let's say, official management meeting, and I was sitting and they were all looking at me and they asked me, what are we going to do? They said, you're the boss, so you instruct us now what we should do. And I said, yeah, I have no clue. I want you to tell me what's your proposal, you know, what's your idea? So I remember I wrote down a few things on the wall. I said, please prepare for your own department the top 3 of things that you think we should improve immediately if we want to grow the business more successfully, because the company we acquired was not very successful at that time. That's why the owner decided to sell it to us. So I asked them, you know, if you would be the owner, if it would be your money, what are the first 3 things you would change in your department? I said, think about it and we do the meeting tomorrow, because I have nothing prepared. I'm new in this company. I have no idea. So that's what we did, and then that was a bit the way we started. I started changing the way of thinking, and sometimes initially people got very tired of me, because every time I said, "What's your proposal? What do you think we should do?" But if you repeat that often enough, then people start to get used to it, and they start to apply it as well in their own departments and in other instances. At the same time, when you, like we did over the years, when you want to grow fast and when you want to achieve things, you need people who make decisions. So I did learn very quickly that people like to have somebody who also dares to take decisions. And I said, I also always tell the different teams, you know, it's better to make a wrong decision than no decision, because just waiting and comparing and analyzing and comparing and waiting, that is very demotivating for employees working in teams together. So it's fine, everybody makes mistakes, but you have to dare to make decisions. So have a good discussion, come with a proposal, and then make a decision and go for it. So high action is also something that I feel most people appreciate when they work for a company, because if a lot of things happen, if new projects are started, if new investments are being made, if new markets are being entered, then at least the atmosphere is there's a lot of energy in the air, because a lot of things are happening, and if it's too silent, then usually the best people they start to get bored and they start looking around for other jobs.
Talking about high action, there was one major one in 2021, which is the acquisition of Masan Feed at 100% of the company, which is part of the Masan Group, right? Which is one of the biggest conglomerates in Vietnam. This is one of the biggest acquisition in the feed business. So how, as a leader, did you handle, or do you handle, the pressure? Because I guess there is still pressure in the transition. And also because it's a Vietnamese company, there is a cultural topic also how do you do to transpose your open culture to the acquired company?
Yeah, so that's again a very interesting process. So the first 13 years in Asia, we have mainly grown through autonomous growth by building up markets from scratch. In Indonesia in 2018, we entered with an acquisition. So we gained some experience in integrating existing feed companies in Indonesia, where we acquired one business in 2018 and another business in 2020. But the size of this acquisition is much larger, of course. So my role during the whole process, I was of course heavily involved in the negotiations and getting the deal done, together with a whole team of people, which was a very special thing because it was COVID time. So we had to collaborate from behind our screens with many of our colleagues in the Netherlands, external advisors from their homes and sitting in Ho Chi Minh City and in Singapore. And we with a small group of colleagues from the Heus, Asia and Vietnam, we locked ourselves up in the landmark tower for 6 weeks, where we worked on all the business cases, and we said we should stay in a hotel because if there is a lockdown, then we all rent a room in the hotel and then we can continue to work. So that was the logic. So that was a very interesting, but also very tiring process, of course. And now in the integration is being led by Johan, who's the general manager of Vietnam for the Heus, who succeeded me in that role 2 years ago. Because until 2 years ago, I was combining the Vietnam role with the Asia role, and now I'm fully in an Asia role. Having said that, I'm based in Vietnam, and Vietnam is the largest business unit of the company. So I am still involved in some parts of the integration, but he is doing the heavy work, I would say, meeting all the people and going to all the locations. What we try to do in this whole integration process is we try to, first of all, emphasize on the fact that we want to retain the best of both worlds, because Masan Feed, the two main brands, Proconco and Anco, are very famous, well-known brands in the market. They are, when we acquired them, they were roughly as big as we are. And so this is really almost like, in terms of size, the Heus Vietnam, it's more a merger than an acquisition in terms of the process, because we are merging two companies that are relatively similar size, very big. Of course, when you pay a lot of money for an acquisition, you need to achieve certain synergies. So we have to make certain tough choices also in the coming time. But we try to spread the positive message to all the old and new colleagues of the Heus that whatever we do, we will try to do it in a very respectful way. We believe that for many of the team members, there are very good opportunities, because it's for the Masan the Heus colleagues, it's now suddenly becoming part of an international company, which also will create new opportunities. We have already identified quite a number of very talented people in their teams who may be very well eligible for also jobs abroad, who would like to do that as well. We have also identified some key people who will have a broader scope in the new company. So I hope and believe that for many people, both from the old and the new the Heus Vietnam team, there it will create many opportunities. And the integration itself, it's a huge process, because we have to upgrade factories, we have to expand capacity, but also sometimes we have to make some tough choices where we maybe have to shut down a factory, or where we have to let go of some people. So we will not try to. We try to tell an honest and open story, and we have a team working on the cultural integration. We the communication around this whole process, and that is a very important topic. And my PA Nana, she's also involved herself in that process, because it's something which is very important, and something we shouldn't underestimate. The worst that could happen is that because of certain mistakes we make in the integration process, we would lose customers or good employees, right? So we try to retain our customers, and we try to welcome the new team members, and also give them the feeling that they are now part of a global team where they have good opportunities to develop themselves.
Okay, so it's all about having an open communication and positive communication, and reassure that the teams that they are going to be handled respectfully, but there's still, at the end of the day, there's a lot of tough choices. So how do you handle this pressure linked to the tough choices to make?
Yeah, so it's if you have to let go of people, it's then it depends on the why. If you let go of somebody because they really are not performing, or you have found out that they were involved in unethical behavior, or they really made a mistake, then for me personally, it's not a tough thing to let them go, because then I think it's easy for me to explain to them the why, you know. So why do we stop here? The worst thing, of course, is if you have people who are performing very well, who are very loyal, but still, because of a certain business choice, you have to stop the cooperation. Then it is that is very painful. We have been lucky. I have been lucky to lead a company that has grown always, so that we always were in need of new people. So we have always had this luxury that all the people who were performing well and who would like to stay, we could offer them a job and an environment. And in the next 2 years, I think I'm again still very positive about our growth potential. So I think that the vast majority of the people can find a new place within the company, but in some cases it will lead to maybe people needing to go to a different location, which is not always possible for them, right? If a factory in location A shuts down, but we can use that same person in a different location, in a different province, it's not always possible for people because of their family situation, because of whatever. So in this process, we will lose people, and yeah, that's tough, you know. There's no person in the world who likes that, to bring such a message, right? But it's at the same time, it's also part of being in a top management role, that you sometimes have to make these type of tough decisions for the good of the whole company. But I hope and expect that with all the growth plans that we have, that we will again have a situation where we actually have to recruit new people from the labor market, rather than that we have to try to select people who should stay or who should not stay.
Talking about growth plan, how many years ahead are you in terms of plan?
You mean in up till when we are making the plans, or
yes, until when are you making your plans?
Yeah, so we have usually very concrete plans for 3 years ahead, because that's usually the average time span that we need. Also, for example, when you have a plan to enter a new market in 2024, then you should already start making your plans by now, because you then, hey, are you going to acquire something? Are you going to buy land and build something? How are you going to develop your team? When are you going to recruit the right people? So 3 years is very common. So we have like always a rolling 3-year budget forecast. But of course, we have also, let's say, our 5 and 10-year ambitions. Like, okay, where do we think we can be 5 years from now? And I always say, you know, you have to you have to shoot for the moon to reach the mountain top. So you need to be very ambitious, and you need to dare to be ambitious and to try to reach very ambitious goals. And then at the end of the day, you may not always reach them, but if you are too conservative, then again, then I come back to this energy thing. If you are too conservative, then it's not really inspiring for people.
Yeah, it's all about having the right balance of keeping the movement forward, but also having a clear vision on where we're going, right? I see.
Yes.
On the website of the Heus, it's written "Diversity accelerates progress." And we were talking about that, about having conversations. However, at a macro level, the environment we evolve in tends to prefer profit and performance over diversity of people, of the biodiversity in the environment, of neurodiversity, etc. So how do you do to keep diversity at every level of the organization as the company, but also in the environment and with your partner, with your diverse partnerships that you have?
Yes. Yeah, I believe that diversity is in many cases the engine for long-term success. And I think that especially sometimes companies that are listed and that have therefore the push to really perform and publish their financial results every 3 months, and they have many stakeholders and shareholders that are always looking over their shoulders. It's sometimes hard to keep being focused on the long term when you have so much short-term pressure to perform. We are, as a family-owned business, we are not listed, and the family really also thinks in terms of decades rather than in years. So they really believe, and that's why I'm after 14 years still happy to work for them and with them. They also want to do business in a very ethical way, and in a way where the company, the Heus as a whole, can also contribute. We cannot deny that our industry needs to improve and needs to do much better. So we have achieved quite some successes, I would say, over the years in Vietnam and in the Asia region. We have taken all kinds of initiatives to show that it is possible to have healthy animals, to have a very good environmental systems in place, like wastewater treatment, like manure treatment, and at the same time achieve competitive cost prices, so that the farmers can also earn enough money to further grow their business. So there's always a lot of tension there. Earlier this year, as the Heus, we developed our own, we call it responsible feeding program, which is in fact our CSR and also carbon footprint reduction plan from now until 2030. And we are now, for each of the countries in Asia, we are also now making very specific plans on the different steps we need to take to eventually, I would say, keep our license to produce. Because if the industry as a whole, but also we as a company, if we are not becoming much more proactive and taking our role when it comes to this topic, then at some point in time, you can lose your license to produce, I think, and that would be pity, because I think that many existing processes can be improved in such a way that when you talk about biodiversity, for example, when you talk about reducing carbon footprint, you talk about applying new technologies, our industry can actually do a lot of good things for the environment. I mean, historically, farmers were the protectors of the environment, right? Hundreds of years ago. And I strongly believe that if you talk about, for example, the Amazon, where a lot of the ingredients that we put in our feed, it's a lot of soy coming from that area. There's a lot of pressure on the industry to take action, because if in Brazil people cut away the Amazon and plant soybeans there, then yeah, we are directly part of something which is very bad. So we are together with some other companies, we have started initiatives when it comes to sustainable soybeans, where we make sure that we don't want to source from these areas anymore. That's just one example. There are plenty of other initiatives. Plastic is a big issue in Southeast Asia. If you look at the rivers in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Vietnam, it's filled with plastic. The environment is filled with plastic. Our feed, until a few years ago, it was all sold in feed bags. Still, if you travel around in the region, sometimes you see the Heus bags on the side of the street. And sometimes people ask me, doesn't that make you proud that you see a lot of the Heus feed bags everywhere? I said, no, it makes me very sad, because these bags shouldn't end up in the environment. So we have started up a project where we start delivering feed in bulk, so in bulk trucks, with the advantage that we don't need plastic bags, with the advantage that we save a lot of cost for the farmer, but also with the advantage that the transport of these trucks is done in a more environmental friendly way. So we have a lower carbon footprint on the transportation as well. So it's far from perfect. You know, we have solar panels on our factories. We try to do many different things, but it's far from perfect, and we have to do much more. And we have introduced our own, the Heus Asia Sustainability Report that we publish annually. And there we are also every year raising the bar for ourselves. And we are, it's not only saying, but you have to make it very smart, these goals. You have to measure it, because saying that we have to do better is, everybody will do that, right? But it's much more important to prove that we are actually making that progress. And I think I'm very positive. I do believe that the whole agriculture industry is able to produce without all kinds of pesticides, is able to produce with more locally sourced raw materials. You shouldn't forget that in animal feed, there's a lot of byproducts from the human industry. So we utilize a lot of byproducts that cannot be consumed by people. If you look at rice, Vietnam is a big rice producer. The rice husk we use as fuel for our boilers. The rice bran we use as feed for the animals. And then only the rice that is eaten by people, that is being consumed or being exported. By utilizing all these byproducts, it also directly helps to lower the price of food for people. So to keep food affordable in many parts of the world, the feed industry can actually help to keep this price affordable and utilize all these byproducts, which otherwise would be garbage, you know. Yeah, I think our industry needs to do a better job in explaining what are the good things that are happening, because a lot of good things are happening. But we also have to look in the mirror, and we have to be honest and say, are we happy with what we are doing today? No, we have to do much more.
Yeah, but in the shift, the mind shift that we need to operate, there is also the fact that people are generally short-term sighted, and they don't see what is the benefit of switching from a plastic bag to bulk, or switching from pesticide to non-pesticide. So how do you do to convince, and what's in it for them in terms of profit and performance?
Yeah, so the best thing is, of course, when you can find, so the low-hanging fruit is when you can do projects where actually you can help them lower their cost, and it's better for the environment, like with this bulk project, right? Because we were also able to sell the fact that look, guys, if you do this, you also will save on labor. You don't have to carry the bags. The transport will be a bit cheaper. Then it's always easy, right? Because if people can feel it in their wallet, if it's better for the environment and it's cheaper, then it's an easy sell. It becomes different when it is actually something which is much better for the food quality or for the consumer or for the environment, but it's initially going to increase the cost for the farmer. Then it's a much tougher sell, right? So we have experienced that when we try to build together with a number of partners in the chain. We helped one of our slaughterhouses, a Vietnamese-Japanese joint venture, Koyo Unitec. We helped them a few years ago to build a safe meat poultry export chain to Japan. And in 2017, the first in Vietnam produced and processed poultry products were exported to Japan, which was a big thing because Japan is a very strict market when it comes to food quality. But we needed to find farmers who were willing to get themselves certified global GAP, it's a very tough requirement to achieve as a farmer. But also these farmers needed to be willing to take out the antibiotics to make antibiotic-free residue poultry meat. And then you need to look for these few farmers who are ahead of the rest, who see the bigger picture. And at that time, we were able to work with 3 large farmers who all also really liked the attention. So then, because you can sell the story to them, look, this is going to be tough. Initially, your cost price may go up. It's more risky because if you don't use antibiotics, there's a higher chance that the chicken gets sick. But if it works, and we will help you, but if you can do this, for the rest of your lives, you will be known in the market as the first farmers who were able to produce antibiotic-free poultry meat. And then, of course, people who have a certain ego and who like the attention from the media and from the environment and from the government, then suddenly there is a way to convince them and to they were also, I also told them, look, your children and grandchildren will be proud if you are able to pull this off, which is true. So we did this project and they succeeded and it worked. And after that, other farmers followed. So you need to prove it on the ground, not with a story, but you need to really do it. And if it works, and if you can do it, then other farmers will follow. But it's not easy. You need always a few people to head start it.
Okay, so if you can make it an easy sell, then spot the small groups of early adopters and then test on the ground.
Yes.
Otherwise, it won't be possible. And that's how you drive change and how you change the mindset of people.
Yeah. For another example is a few years ago we were telling farmers, look, you should, when you build new farmhouses, put solar panels on your roof. There's so much sun, you have free energy, it's better for the environment. Yeah. And many people will say, but it doesn't work here, you cannot make the connection to the grid, and the paperwork is complex, and blah blah. And then we did a project with a few farmers. They pulled it off. We made pictures of it, we put it in a magazine, we showed it to other farmers, we invited other farmers to come to these farms to see how it works. And then having a few early adopters who become your ambassadors, that's crucial. Until we had them, everybody was saying, yeah, that's nice in Europe, but Vietnam is different, or Indonesia is different, or Myanmar is different. But when people see it with their own eyes, they cannot use that argument anymore because it's there, right? So
yeah,
you have to get it in place.
Yeah, and Southeast Asia is a very sunny region, so wherever you are in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of sun anyway.
Exactly.
So and that doesn't change. The sun is not limited to one country or another.
Exactly.
I see. There is another question that I have for you is whenever I mention your name to people who work in your industry, they always show a lot of respect towards you. How did you do to achieve this?
think, well, there are a few things. I think first of all, I've been in this role for a long time. So if you are okay, my role changed over the years, but at the end of the day, I'm still based in Ho Chi Minh City, or here for more than 13 years. So then you, of course, you know many people, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is that over the years, almost every year we were able to announce an entry into a new country, or the successful construction of a new feed mill, or the acquisition of a company. So then people also start saying, oh wow, there's a lot happening in this company, and that also then has of course a positive reflection on me, because I lead the business here in Asia. That's the second thing. I think the third thing is that the fact that I'm very tall and I can speak the local language is also always quite funny for people to recognize. So then it also maybe keeps some kind of reflection when people hear about me or something. Oh, that's this very tall guy who can also speak Vietnamese. At the end of the day, I think it's also I also always try to show respect to others, and I'm a very I'm easily accessible, and I really like the interaction with customers. So I've always been in the market a lot, because I like to get the information firsthand. I like to travel. I like to talk to people. Like to meet our customers, because then I know also better what we need to do better and what we can do to improve ourselves. So I think that is also something that is appreciated by making that effort, and by really going to the middle of nowhere sometimes to visit our customers and see their products and see our people at work.
So really being close to the operational teams really helps to build that trust and respect, and also to make sure that the culture of the company and you as the leader stand for them, and you don't forget them. Because there is this tendency also when you're in a big company where there's different worlds, right? There are the people who are close to the farmers, and the one that are more technical, more R&D. So that's two worlds. So if I understand well, you can adapt to every kind of people.
Yeah, and I also try to bring the different these different groups of colleagues. I try to bring them together in not only in an official meeting where they maybe sometimes argue about certain stuff, but I really strongly believe in also the power of having the informal contact. So going together for lunch or dinner, or celebrating a success together, and not only with only the commercial team or only the production team, but really by trying to bring people from different departments together, because usually in the more informal settings, you sometimes have the most valuable conversations. So
but,
I think,
but for people who are not used to informal exchange, and how do you do to create that context of informal connection?
I think it's, well, you have to create you have to trigger the events for it, right? So you can the celebration of birthdays, or certain milestone that has been achieved, or a big commercial success that we can celebrate. It's about celebrating success a lot also. But it's also creating the opportunities to have these informal meetings. That's the first thing, which has been very, very challenging the last 2 years, of course, because of COVID. And the second thing is then, well, once you have these meetings, then it's also about the example of me and the other managers and leaders to mingle, to talk to everyone. I mean, when there is a year-end party, when I say cheers to everyone, I try to, let's say, start first with the workers from the factories, and sit with them and talk to them, and so try to not have this this groups feeling where you have big gap between maybe the blue collar workers and then the commercial people who are in the market and the more head office type people who are working out of the big city. I think it's very important to try to make the connection and to give the right example there as well, because at the end of the day we are all working for the same company. We're all colleagues, and it makes working together, collaboration. It starts with communication, right? You need to start talking to each other and get to know each other.
I see. So not creating that separation and making sure that you see everybody as a whole part of the group. Before we wrap up this session, can you give us one advice to any leaders who are looking and expanding in Southeast Asia today?
Yeah, so I think in any business in this region, there are two things. The difficulty is that in whatever business you are, you will have many competitors, because Southeast Asia is hot in terms of investment climate still today. I think many investors have already invested in this region or are planning to do so from other parts of the world, but also there's a whole new generation growing up, a relatively young population in the different countries in Southeast Asia, and I think that so there's, on the one hand, there's this huge opportunity with economic growth, with demand that is right there, with a big population to serve, with hundreds of millions of people. There is the ASEAN free trade agreement that gradually will make it easier to have cross-border export-import activities, investments within the region. So that is of course the upside, but you have to be aware of the fact that you will not be the only one, and that there are many competitors who are out there. So my advice is always, think carefully about what do you want to achieve and what's your strength. And I have seen examples, as long as I'm here, I've seen examples of companies who were very successful in a specific business, but who then too early started to expand into all kinds of other activities. And my advice is always, first try to really become strong in your main business. It's much better to be one of the leading companies in one specific sub business than to be a medium-sized company in 6 or 7 different activities. Because I think once you have really proven yourself to the market, to your competition, that you are really able over a longer period of time to be successful, then I think the chances of growing further and expanding your business are better. So if you try to expand too fast, but your foundation is not yet strong enough, then there is the risk that your whole house collapses.
I see. Thank you very much, Gabor, for this advice of knowing your foundation, knowing your strength, becoming expert in your knowledge, and then expand. Thank you, Gabor, for your insightful advice, your business advice as a leader for the Heus Vietnam and the Heus Asia, as a family-owned business in a fast-growing economy. So thank you very much, Gabor, for being with us, for being with Asian Tide. And thank you to the listeners. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Thank you for listening to this new episode. We are Asian Tide, and we aim at inspiring you to drive your business growth in Southeast Asia by inviting progressive leaders who share with us hands-on tips and insightful lessons from their experience. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your colleagues or your managers. Thank you for following our accounts on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and see you on the next episode of Asian Tide every Sunday.